Okay, hi everybody and welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the kendhang parts for our third form. Now that is the form Ladrang, dibentuk Ladrang. So this is like the piece Wilujeng that we did at the very beginning. So we're going to come back and learn the drum parts for this. So the sounds that we're going to be using for bentuk Ladrang are the same as the ones we were using for ketawang, right? So just to review, all that we have is ket, so that's both sides of the drum closed, and then just with one finger, a tap on the ketipong. Then we have ta, which is played with this right side closed, and then my left hand playing on the smaller head of the ketipong. Then we have tung, symbolized by a P, and that is again with either one finger or with just my thumb on the larger side of the ketipong. And finally we have da, and da is just a open stroke on the largest head of my kendhang gede. All right, and that's it. Pretty straightforward. So now let's look at the notation for Ladrang. The first thing, as always, is the buko. Now, just like we did in ketawang, my buko is actually going to immediately transition, before we even get to that first gong, into irama tanggung. So we'll already be in irama tanggung by the time we start irama 1. Yeah? So it starts just like ketawang with ta, ta, tung, da. And then immediately we're subdividing. Yeah? So if you look at that buko part, we have ta, ta, tung, da, rest, rest, da, tung, da, tung. Just like that. So to try it out, here we go. And that last tung is on gong. So now moving forward, we've got to do irama 1, irama tanggung. Now this one is pretty straightforward, pretty easy. This is very similar in a way to what we did for lancaran. So the first 3 lines of the Ladrang form are just going to be repeating the same thing. So that's just gong, rest, rest, dan, tung, dan, tung, da, tung, da, tung. Just that. And that whole thing is going to repeat 3 times. That's my first 3 lines of the Ladrang. And then the final line, I'll have tung, da, tung, da, tung, da, tung, da, tung, da, tung. So one more time, that final line, take a look at that. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, tung, da, tung, da, tung, da, tung, da, tung, da, tung. And that last tung, again, is on gong, and we go back to the very beginning. So let's try that whole thing, just irama 1, and we'll repeat it 2 times, right? So starting from the buko. 1, 2, 3, 4. So hopefully you were able to follow along with that, because now we're going to jump directly into doing the transition into irama 2, irama dados. Okay, so for my transition to irama dados from irama tanggung, we're just going to take that first 1.5 lines and we're going to slow down gradually. Now once we get halfway through that second line, we're going to transition into the new kendhang part for irama 2, irama dados. So let's take a look at just those first two lines for right now. 1, 2, 3, gong, rest, rest. Da dum, da dum, da dum, da dum, da dum, da dum, dum, da, get, dum, da, get, da, dum, da. Now let's try that with the kendhang and without hearing the syllables out loud. 1, 2, 3, gong. All right, and that gets us to the second kendhang. Now, for the rest of the form, for the third and fourth lines, we're actually going to be playing the part that is already in irama dados. Yeah? So once we get there, it's exactly going to be the same, and we're going to loop all the way back around to the very beginning of the form, still in irama dados. So the first thing that we're going to be playing in irama dados actually doesn't start at the beginning of the form. Yeah, it starts right halfway through that second line, what we just practiced there. After that, it's all going to be the same. So first, let's take a look at the entire thing in irama dados. Yeah, and then we can look at exactly where do we start in that form. Yeah. Okay, so now let's look at the entire kendhang part, starting from that. From the very first line, right? So like we're already in irama 2, irama dados. Yeah. So let's take a look. 1, 2, 3, gong. Ket, 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 ket. Dum, dum, da, dum, da. Ket, 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 ket. All right, so that was my first two lines. After that, we're going to have the third line and the fourth line going to gong. Yeah? So let's try that one time. So 1, 2, 3, nong. Dum, da. Dum, dum, da. Da. Dum, 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 da. Dum, dum, da. Dum, dum, da. Dum, da. So repeat that a few times along with this recording. Really take your time with it. And you'll notice there's a couple things in there that don't line up exactly with the notation. It's much better to follow along with what you hear, right? So repeat it a few times. Take it one line at a time until you feel comfortable with the whole thing. Now, again, we're going to go through the entire thing now in irama dados, yeah? Starting from the very first line. Ready? So 1, 2, 3, gong. Ket, 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 ket. Dum, dum, da, dum, da. Ket, 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 da, dum, da, dum, dum, da, dum, da, dum, ket, 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 dum, da, ket, da, dum, da. All right, so jumping all the way back to our transition. Yeah, if you've already got the entire thing in irama 1, irama tanggung, and you've already got the entire thing in irama dados, all that's left to do is work out the transition. Yeah? So in that transition, the only real thing that's different is just the second half of that second line. Yeah? That's the one that's just slightly different than our part in irama dados. So in general, from that transition, we can think of it like we're going from the transition and jumping directly to the beginning of the third line in irama 2, irama dados. And then after that, we're just going to loop the irama dados part. Yeah? So let's try that entire thing. What we're going to do is we're going to play the buko. Then we're going to play the entire piece one time in irama tanggung. Then we're going to play a transition to go to irama dados. And then we're going to loop the entire thing in irama dados one time. Yeah, so let's try it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ba, ba, dum, da, da, dum, da, gong, da, dum, 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 da, dum. So, in general, when you're practicing, I know this is a lot of information, so just take it one little bit at a time, yeah? So first, try the whole thing of irama 1, irama tanggung, because that one's pretty straightforward, so you should be able to do that one. After that, try irama dados. So take it one line at a time. First, try and play the entire top line, and do that a few times until you have it basically memorized. Ideally memorized if you can. Once you have that, then add in the second line, right? And try and play the first line going directly through to the second line. And naturally, once you can do that, add in the third line, and then finally the fourth line. For each one of these, repeat it a few times, ideally lots of times if you can, until it feels basically natural, so you don't have to think about it too much, yeah? Now that we have that, all that's left to learn is the suwo. Okay, so looking at the suwo for Ladrang form, it's going to start again halfway through that second line, yeah? So we're just going to have a very slightly different part up until that last line, which is going to be totally different. So let's take a look at that, and we'll play from the very first line as though we're just in irama 2, so starting after gong, and we'll go directly through to the suwo, which is going to slow us down to the ending. So let's try it out. 1, 2, 3, gong. Ket, 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 ket. ket, rest, ket, 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 rest, ket, 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 rest, ket, ket, gong. And that's the end of the piece. Now for some ladrang, we're only going to have this one section, yeah? But for most pieces in the form ladrang, there are actually two sections to the piece. We have an ompak and a ngelek, right? So for ladrang wilujeng, that's the case. We have an ompak and a ngelek. So if you remember when we were learning the vocal part, the gerong actually only happens during the ngelek. Now, for the first two lines of the ngelek, our kendhang part is actually a bit different, right? So we actually have to learn a slightly different part for those first two lines. So let's take a look at that and see what it sounds like. Now the second two lines, the third and the fourth line going towards gong, those are exactly the same. It's just the first line and the second line that are a bit different, right? So let's try it out. So from gong, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And after that, it's exactly the same as the ompak. Good luck, happy practicing. Now let's listen to what it sounds like with the actual recording of wilujeng, so that you have an idea exactly what it is that we are aiming for, yeah? And later you can try playing along yourself with this recording once you feel comfortable with all of these individual parts. Let's take a listen.